Welcome back. President Obama is now headed home from the largest gathering of leaders the world has ever seen. The subject of the event? What many believe is the biggest threat the globe has ever seen, the crisis posed by climate change. Joining us now via Skype from Paris, Sarah Stefanini. She's a reporter for Politico EU. Sarah, I know it's been a long day. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
Can you talk about what the world's leaders gathered at this climate summit achieved and what work negotiators will continue to do over the next, 6 or 12 months, let's say?
Yeah, well, it's only just the beginning. The world leaders, I think there were 147 of them. They came in yesterday and gave speeches one after the other. And it was mainly to build momentum and give inspiration for the negotiations that are now underway, and they're going to take about 2 weeks. And next Friday or Saturday, we should have some kind of agreement, what will probably be an international treaty on climate change, on the action that that countries need to take to fight climate change over the next 15 years. But delegates and negotiators have now gone back to the table after hearing their heads of state speak.
The president, in his remarks at the end of the conference, said something that he sort of said before, that he believes that a carbon tax is the most, in his words, elegant solution because it brings the market in and it brings technology in. Do we know what types of things, whether it be that or some other thing or things, how do the world's leaders think we can slow and maybe reverse the impact human activity is clearly having on the climate?
Yeah, carbon pricing is a big one, in the EU, the US, New Zealand, quite a few. China is starting their own carbon pricing market. A lot of countries and a lot of the world's biggest companies are asking for a carbon price because by making coal and other fossil fuels more expensive because there's some kind of tax on it, then the market says that will guide investment into low carbon technology like renewables or insulation or LED light bulbs and all sorts of inventions like that. Other big things are renewables. For India and some of the other developing countries in Africa, they still want to be able to develop, but they need energy to do that. India and Africa have a lot of people who don't even have electricity, so they don't want to be required to do things to reduce their emissions, but they're willing to invest more in and get investment in renewable energy so that as they grow in a cleaner way.
The president said the world is pretty united in the basic science. Maybe not so much here in the U.S., but outside the U.S., he indicated, and it seems there is, a fairly broad consensus. Was there a mood of consensus there on A, there's a problem, and B, that we can make progress if we tackle it globally rather than some nations doing a lot and others being free riders, to borrow a phrase from the president?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. But yeah, I think the leaders, there was quite a lot of consensus, a lot of big gestures and goodwill came out of yesterday. A lot of governments made big announcements. Developed countries promised to put money into everything from stopping deforestation to developing renewables. There are still some underlying issues. One of the biggest and most controversial is about how you differentiate between developing and developed countries and who has the biggest share of the burden to fight climate change. Because you've got countries like China, which are technically developing but have their own capabilities to provide financing. The US and EU want to create a more nuanced definition to include these kinds of emerging economies. Other countries are more worried that developed countries are just trying to shift the burden. Sorry?
We have about 2 minutes left, and I want to use it, Sarah, to talk about how remarkable it is that Paris would host a conference like this, as we said at the outset, the largest gathering of world leaders and some prominent billionaires too, thrown in just for fun, in a city still raw from horrific attacks. How did they do it? And can you reflect on that for a moment?
Yeah, it was, I mean, on the night of the attacks, there were immediately rumors on Twitter saying that the COP21 would be cancelled. But the French government really immediately said, no, it's not. It's still going ahead. And I mean, the organization is pretty amazing from everything when you get to the station, because the conference center is quite far out of the city, but everyone who's involved in the conference has free transportation. You get to the train station and there are signs and people directing you to the train. There's a lot of security to get in, but it doesn't take that long to get through. It's been pulled off in a really sort of interesting and well-organized way. And I think the French have really kind of rallied around it. Hollande has a lot riding on this. He wants to pull off a successful international deal. I think it'll be good for his support and legacy.
Sarah Stefanini is a reporter for Politico EU. She's joined us via Skype from Paris. We appreciate very much your insight into the conference and into the situation on the ground in Paris right now, Sarah. I know it's been a long day. Thank you very much for your time. I hope we can get the chance to talk with you again.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll step aside. We're back with a program note after this.